Piece by piece the silence breaks, every bolt a beast awakes. Hands in steel, no turning back. I built the dark, painted black. Built in silence, forged in fear. Every piece brings darkness near. Engines whisper, then they roar. The streets won't sleep anymore. Steel and shadow locked in place, built for streets that never sleep. Shadows bend when wheels ignite. This machine was born for night. From scattered parts to something grand, the city fades, the lights grow dim. No hero calls, no warning sound, just the tumbler Gotham bound.
Hi all, welcome back to another instalment of the Batmobile Tumbler. So far we've done issues 1 through to 6, so we're going to be carrying on with that build today. So yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Please like this video and please consider subscribing if you wish to follow the series. That being said, we're going to get straight on today and let's get down to issue 7. Okay, so we're going to kick off today with issue 7 of the Batman Tumbler. And in this issue, we're going to be doing the shock absorber, rods and right steering bar. There's quite a few parts in this issue. It looks fairly fiddly. So let's get on with the build. As you can see, there's quite a lot to do. So we get lots of parts and they're all in this paper wrap, and then I've also sorted out the screws. We've got 5 lots of screws and some other small components there as well. So the first thing we're going to do, so we go back, is we want to find these two parts, 7A, and also we want part 7B, which looks like this part in that orientation. So we're going to put these on the ends and we're going to secure that on with a UM screw. So we can grab one of them, and it might help if I have the right bit. And then that's just going to go in to secure that into place. Like so. I think that can probably go in a little bit more. I found that with this build, you think you're done, and the screw keeps giving because we are cutting into metal. So there we go, and that is that one. Okay, then that takes us on to step 3. We're going to be doing exactly the same on the other side, so we're going to use another screw. And I will try a little bit of oil on this one, just to see if that helps. It's not always necessary to use the oil, but for comparison, and that has really helped actually in that case. So that is that part done. The next step is we're going to need our wheel assembly that we did in a previous issue, and then we're going to be tying a lot of this together now. So we're going to need this bracket, and we've got this pin which is metal, And then we're going to sort of fit all this together on this arm. So the first step is to make sure that this bracket is in the correct orientation. So as I have it on the table here, the pin is going to be on the right, R for right, pin on my right. And that's going to go on just in there between this arm. Okay, and then in between all that, this piece is going to get sandwiched in just in the center there with the arrowhead, I'm going to call it, facing the tire in there like so. And then we're going to push the pin through to encapsulate all of that. Like so, if that, you can see that. So then if I move this forward, that's what we're going to end up with. And that is the correct way. And then we're going to push that all the way through. Going to lift this arm up a bit. That's going to sit just on there for now. And then we're going to put another bracket which says right on the end, and that is going to go in like so. Now this is keyed and there's a D shape on there, so that will only fit one way. So we're going to look something like that. Both pins on, one pin on the right, one on the left. So if I can get that so you can see, so it's a little bit fiddly. Where are we? Why have you moved? There you go. Can't see for looking. You've got the R, the right side up on one side, and the R is upside down on this piece. And then we're going to secure that end in with a UM screw. Again, I'm going to use a little bit of oil, as this is tried and tested on this particular thing. So this is going to be, oh, and my screws flung off. This is going to be where it's a little bit awkward to try and get all this together. And it's trying to find the way of holding all this. While I get that screw in. But that is not too bad. Okay, that is that part complete. So we look something like that. I just want to check. That is definitely in, the screw all the way. It is still a bit loose, but the screw is in. A little bit fiddly. Okay, so that being done, we're then going to take the bulkhead that we've been previously working on, and we're going to fix this wheel assembly now to the actual bulkhead, which is quite exciting. So we're going to line this up, and we want these two shocks facing upwards. And then we're going to line up our brackets with the pins in these holes here. So that's 1 in and 2, just like so. That's going to fit on there. And then we're going to attach that from the rear with some AM screws. So this is going to be easier said than done, I'm sure. So I'm just going to grab some AM screws and I'm going to add a little bit of oil on there because we are going into metal. And I think what I'm going to do is do like a diagonal pattern if I can. It might be hard to see just for the moment. And let me just get that in place and then I can show you a better view of that. Do that side in. This side this side's come out. So let me just loosen that again. Okay, I had to loosen one side to get that in, but that is what we're looking like. And then we're gonna, the screws I'm doing are these 4 here. So I've just done the 2 diagonal for the moment, and I'm just gonna drive in the other 2 with the AM screws. Oh, where's that screw just gone? It's on the end of my screwdriver. I'm doing them fairly tight, but not too tight, because these screws are small. And it makes me nervous, because these sometimes the screw heads can shear off, like happens to my Aventador. Okay, so that's what we are looking like. And then I'm just going to cross-reference all these pictures. Just to make sure we are still on the same page. So yeah, arrowhead is facing towards me. Sorry, the camera's blurred. And that all looks good to me. Okay, so moving on, we're then going to take the lower rod, 7F, which is this piece here. Let me bring you in a bit closer. And we are going to be using an RP screw. So let me just get one of those ready. So we're going into plastic with this one. And what we're going to do, I need to get some more light on the situation. We're going to push it into this piece here. And then that's going to fit over that pin. And then we're going to secure that in with the RP screw. And that's still got some movement, so that's good. So that is what that looks like. Okay, so the next step is to fit 7G, which is this part here. And this is going to go on the other pin and face upwards, with a larger hole on the bottom. And that is going to be secured in oh, it doesn't actually say. secure that using the RP screw. Insert the bar joint into the corresponding pin on the right front suspension shown by the red arrow. It's missed to, it hasn't told you what screw to use, so I'm going to assume it's another RP screw because I've got 2 left of those. I'm going to get this. This screwdriver is not going to work for this, so I'm going to need to revert to my normal ones. Appreciate this is probably really hard to see. So that's in. So yeah, I'm guessing that's what that looks like. I am going to assume it is that screw because as you can see here, it says to take the lower, which we've done, and insert it using an RP screw. But then when we come on to this part, it doesn't say what screw to use. It just says insert the bar joint into the corresponding pin on the right front suspension as shown by the red arrow. The next minute we're done with that and we're fitting something else. We're attaching it to the end of the bar joint. So we are using a UP screw though for that. So we're gonna bring this bar down, join them up, and then we're going to secure that together with a UP screw. Just getting it lined up is going to be the key. Which is easier said than done. Okay, that is now in. That was a little bit tricky, but that is that bar joint now in, and that's all the movements. So that's really cool. Okay, next we're going to turn our attention to the steering bar. I'm just going to push that back for the moment. Going to bring over the steering bar. So it's this orientation in the magazine, and we're going to take the joint into the seat of the bar and secure it using 2 AP screws. So this is this part here. So we're going to insert that into there. line up the holes like so, and then we're going to use 2 AP screws to secure that from both ends. So the best thing to do is line it up and hold it together. That's one side in. And the second side in. And I'm going to loosen that off just so it's got some movement, because it is a universal joint. So with that being done, we now need to insert this into the rear of this bulkhead with this bar facing downwards. We're going to go in this hole. We're going to turn that. Because we want to access the screw holes for the steering bar. And that's going to go on there like so. And then again, we're going to secure that with, turn the page, I'm assuming AP screws again. Yeah, AP screws from either end. This one might be a little bit more tricky because of the space we've got to work with. But yeah, just make sure this bar is facing downwards. And then I'm going to try and get this screw in, just holding it any way you can. Bingo. So I've tightened it a bit and then backed it off a small amount. And now we need to try and get this other one in. So the best thing to do is turn the wheel to bring that bar up and then pull it back, and hopefully I can then have enough room to get that in, back it off a bit. We should be done. So if I turn this lever, we have steering. Bingo. And that is issue 7 complete. Okay, so we're now going to be working on issue 8 of the Batmobile Tumbler. And we're going to be doing the left side now. So we're going to do the left front suspension and left disc brake. So this is pretty much what we did a few issues back, but repeating on the other side. So without further ado, let's crack on with this piece. I did enjoy building this one last time. It all went together really nicely. So, okay, so the first thing we're going to need is the left arm. We're going to turn this round, and let me just have a look here. We want it in this orientation. We're going to take our plastic piece, and then that is going to fit into here with the higher at the back. Again, this should only go in one way. Yes, it does. And then we're going to secure that in with 2 AM screws. And I've got my assortment of screws ready for this issue. Look at me being organised, eh? So we're going to fit that in there. They are AM screws. I'm actually going to use the other screwdriver for this, just to make things a little bit easier. Again, not going in too tight because we are going through plastic into metal, and I've not needed oil for these screws. That is that secured into place, and that is step 1 and 2 complete. The next thing we're going to do is attach, we're going to flip this round and we're going to attach the steering arm. So again, that's going to go sit in there, and then we're going to use this cap to encapsulate that, and then we're going to secure that down with an AM screw. Just in that hole. On the top. Is that in fully? Nope. Again, thought it was tight, not quite. So I'm going to do a couple more turns on that, just to make sure that is really tight. And there we go. That is that in place. And that's what we look like. So next we're going to move this to one side and we're going to work on the disc. So again, we're going to put the details towards the center. That makes up the fins of the brake disc. And then we're going to secure that with 2 SP screws. One. And oh, put it in the empty hole. There we go. That is our brake disc complete. Next we're going to take our brake housing and our wheel pin, and then as before we're going to put the brake housing over there. We're going to leave the gap this side so the pin is that side, and we're going to secure that in with 2 AM screws. That's one side in. And then the other side, if we go there. So that's 1 and 2. Okay, I think we need to go a little bit more on those screws. Okay, and that is that secured in. I took quite a few turns on the screw there, just to make sure that was flat. We're then going to install the brake disc, and then we're going to encapsulate that with the caliper, and then we're going to use 2 SP screws on the back. It's lined up. That's it. That's 1. And 2. And there we have another rotor complete. Okay, we're going to bring our steering arm back, and then we're going to install the left stub. And this is where I just want to double check the orientation. It's going to go in that way. There is no other way. Yeah, it's not going to be that way. So we're going to go in this way, and then we're going to secure that from the other side with a double AM screw. Gonna need to change the end for that because we've got a bit more of a heftier screw for this. And I'm going to use a bit of oil. Okay, so that is that complete. The next job is to take the wheel pin assembly, place it inside the left stub, and use 2 GM screws to secure it together. So yeah, we're going to put our wheel assembly in like so. And then we're going to use 2 GM screws. These are quite long screws as well. I remember this being a bit tricky last time to line up. But we'll see how it goes. Right, that's one side in. Now, I recommend trying to line the other side up first before you tighten them down. Just so you've got some movement to move that about. Perfect. Then I can start securing that together. So I'm going to tighten them up to start, and then I'm going to loosen ever so slightly because we want moving wheel. Lovely, lovely movement on that. Okie doke. The next thing we're going to do is place our wheel assembly down, and as before you can pull this bar down just to make it easier to work on. And then we're going to install the drop arm in that orientation. Sort of comes down, and then we're going to secure that in with an ABM screw. And then we need to go back to our 0 screwdriver for this. And I don't think I'm going to use oil on this one. I'm just going to line that up. And that went in really nicely. Again, not going too tight on that. Just enough to hold that. And we've still got some movement. Okay, and the final step is to just push that back down, and then we can install that on the wheel pin arm, and then we're going to secure that with a UM screw. That's it. Just check we've still got free movement there, and then we have operating steering. Perfect. That is that stage complete. Okay, moving on to issue 9 of the Batmobile Tumbler. And this issue is interesting because there's not a lot to do. So, we're going to be doing the outer and inner rim and journal cross for the second front tyre. So, we get the parts. And we are not going to be doing anything with these in this issue. They're just left to the side. But what we are going to be doing is fitting our journal cross there to the left side suspension arm that we worked on. So let's get on with that. So we're going to place this journal in between as before. Okay, and then we're going to secure that with AP screw. And it does say again not to over tighten because it is a moving part, which is what we did on the other side. So we're just going to pop that in, hold it, line up the holes. And then secure that in. So that's one side. We're going to do the same on the other side. That doesn't feel right, so I'm just going to back that off and adjust. Still doesn't feel right. Going to be going in there. That's it. And then loosen that off. And now I've got movement in that joint. This could do with a little bit more tightening. Get that just right. There we go. And there you go. That's issue 9 complete. There you go, guys. That was issue 7 through till 9. I hope you enjoyed that. 9 was a very short issue. That does seem to happen with part works, though. They get you, you know, they get you into them. You get a lot of parts in the first few issues, and then they tend to thin it out a bit. So I'm expecting quite a few issues like that, where here's a part, leave it till next week, or yeah, here's 2 screws and you're done. That is all part of it. But again, you've got to look at the overall build when it's done. But I really enjoyed doing that. It was good to get the other arm on. It was good to get that arm on the bulkhead. And it's really weighty with just that one arm. So when we've put the left side on, that's going to be really heavy. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Please give me a like. And if you want to follow the rest of this series, please consider subscribing. I am trying to get 1,000 subs, so that would be great if you could help towards that. And also on my channel, you'll find some other builds, and I'm doing the Lambo event store. That's a live stream on a Monday, and I've got lots of stuff in the archives, from building the bus up here to the VW camper on the top shelf, which is just out of sight. But all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Just the tumbler.